Welcome to Soul Spirit Stories, where real-life moments turn into unforgettable stories that touch your heart and soul. Today's story will remind you that sometimes the hardest choices in life are the ones that define who we truly are. This is the story of Michael, a single dad who had nothing left except his love for his little girl, and one day that love would lead him to make a decision that would change everything. The morning sun crept through the thin curtains of a small, run-down apartment. The air smelled faintly of burnt toast and cheap coffee. Michael stood by the kitchen counter wearing his only suit, slightly wrinkled but clean. He adjusted his tie nervously while glancing at the clock on the wall. 35 a.m. "Come on, Emma. We're going to be late, sweetheart," he called out, trying to sound calm. But inside, his heart raced. This was the day that could finally turn things around for both of them. A big job interview at a top firm, his chance to start over, to give his 7-year-old daughter the life she deserved. Emma came running out of her tiny room, clutching her worn-out teddy bear. Her hair was messy, her smile wide. "Daddy, look! Mr. Fluffy's ready for school too," she said proudly. Michael smiled. "He's going to ace it just like you." He quickly tied her shoelaces, grabbed her little backpack and kissed her forehead. No matter how tired he was, or how broke he felt, Michael always made sure Emma felt safe and loved. They stepped outside into the chilly morning air. The streets buzzed faintly with city sounds, horns, chatter, footsteps. Michael held Emma's hand tightly as they walked toward her school. "You're gonna do great today, Daddy," she said suddenly, looking up at him. He smiled. "How'd you know about my interview?" She giggled. "You talk in your sleep, Daddy." Michael laughed softly. "Guess I need to keep my secrets better." At the school gates, he knelt down to hug her. "Be good, okay? Daddy's got something really important today." "I will." "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Peanut." As he watched her run off to class, his eyes lingered for a moment. Every choice he made was for her. Then he turned, adjusted his suit and started walking toward the bus stop. But fate had other plans. Halfway down the street, the distant sound of screeching tires filled the air. Then, a crash. A woman screamed. Michael's heart jumped. He looked up. A few blocks ahead, a small car had spun out of control and slammed into a streetlight. Smoke was rising from the hood. People stood frozen on the sidewalk, unsure what to do. Without thinking, Michael ran. He dropped his briefcase and sprinted through the crowd. The front of the car was crumpled, glass everywhere. Inside, a young woman was trapped, her head slumped against the steering wheel, blood trickling down her forehead. "Call 911, Michael shouted. But no one moved. He yanked at the door handle. It was jammed. He braced himself, kicked it once, twice, until it finally gave way with a crack. The woman's pulse was weak, but she was breathing. Smoke began to thicken around them. Hey, stay with me, okay? You're gonna be fine," he said, trying to sound calm as he pulled her out carefully. The moment they stumbled free, the car's engine burst into flames. The heat seared his skin, the blast knocking him to the ground. People gasped. Someone finally rushed forward with a fire extinguisher. Michael coughed, his suit now ruined, his hands scraped raw. But the woman, she was alive. Paramedics arrived minutes later. They quickly took over, lifting the woman onto a stretcher. One of them looked at Michael and said, "Sir, you probably saved her life." He nodded, breathless, but then he looked at his watch. 10 a.m. The interview had started 10 minutes ago. Panic hit him like a wave. He stumbled up, grabbed his briefcase, now covered in dust, and ran toward the nearest bus stop. His heart pounded. He couldn't lose this chance. Not now. Not after everything. But when he arrived at the bus stop, the bus was gone. The next one wasn't for another 20 minutes. He stood there, chest heaving, eyes stinging. He thought about Emma, about the rent he couldn't pay, about the nights he'd gone hungry so she wouldn't have to. He started running again. 5 blocks. 10 blocks. His shoes tore. His breath burned. His shirt clung to him with sweat. When he finally reached the office building, he was 35 minutes late. His suit was torn, his hair messy, his face streaked with dirt. The receptionist looked up, startled. "Sir, are you okay?" He tried to smile. Interview for Mr. Reynolds, Michael Carter. She hesitated, typing quickly. Then she looked up with a hint of pity. I'm sorry, sir. They just finished. They've already made their decision. Michael's face fell. He stood there, breathing hard, clutching his briefcase like it was the only thing holding him together. He nodded slowly. It's okay. Thank you. He walked out quietly, his footsteps echoing in the marble lobby. Outside, the wind had picked up. The world looked duller somehow. He sat on a nearby bench, head in his hands. Everything he'd worked for, gone, because he'd stopped to help a stranger. He wanted to believe he'd done the right thing. But right now, it didn't feel that way. Hours later, he picked up Emma from school. She ran up to him, grinning. Daddy, how did your big interview go? Michael forced a smile. It didn't go the way I hoped, sweetie. Her smile faded. Did they say no? He nodded. She hugged him tightly. It's okay, Daddy. You're still the best daddy ever. And in that moment, he realized something. That little girl didn't care about job titles, suits, or fancy offices. All she cared about was love, and that was something he still had to give. They went home that night, ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner, and watched old cartoons on their small TV. Michael laughed more that night than he had in weeks. Still, deep down, he couldn't stop wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake. 2 weeks later, Michael was walking home from a grocery store when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Michael Carter? Yes, this is Mr. Reynolds from Fairview Industries. I believe you came in for an interview recently. Michael's stomach dropped. Yes, sir. I'm sorry about that day. I was late because Mr. Reynolds interrupted. Actually, that's why I'm calling. Michael froze. The woman you saved that morning. She's my daughter. There was a long silence. I don't even know what to say, Michael stammered. You don't have to. You already said it, with your actions. You could have kept walking that day, but you didn't. Michael swallowed hard, unable to speak. My daughter told me what you did before she passed out, Reynolds continued. She said you were calm, brave, and that you stayed until help came. I wanted to thank you personally. Michael blinked back tears. I'm just glad she's okay, sir. She's recovering well, Reynolds said softly. And as for you, I think our company could use a man with that kind of heart. Can you come in tomorrow morning? Michael was speechless. Yes, sir. Thank you. He hung up, his hands shaking. For a moment, he just stood there on the sidewalk staring up at the sky, tears welling in his eyes. Then he smiled, the biggest, most genuine smile he'd had in years. The next morning, he wore the same suit, patched, pressed, and proud. Emma watched him from the doorway, her eyes shining. Daddy, you're gonna get it this time. I know it, he laughed softly. How'd you get so smart? Mr. Fluffy told me, she said with a wink. Michael hugged her tight. Wish me luck. Good luck, Daddy. He walked out with a new sense of peace. When he entered Mr. Reynolds' office, the older man stood up and shook his hand firmly. It's good to finally meet you properly. Mr. Carter, he said with a warm smile. Michael nodded, humbled. Thank you for this opportunity, sir. Reynolds looked him straight in the eye. You earned it. Not with words, but with who you are. Over the next months, Michael worked harder than ever. He excelled at his job, often staying late, but always coming home in time to tuck Emma in. Slowly, their life began to change. A better apartment, a new school for Emma, even a car that didn't break down every other week. But despite all the new beginnings, Michael never forgot that day, the fire, the fear, the choice, because that choice had taught him something deeper than success could ever offer, that when you do good without expecting anything in return, life finds its way to reward you. One rainy evening, months later, Michael stood by his office window, looking out over the city lights. His phone buzzed. It was a video message from Emma's school. He opened it and smiled. It was Emma on stage at her school. Assembly. She was holding a paper medal and speaking into the microphone. My hero is my dad, she said proudly, because he helps people even when it's hard. He missed something really important one day, but he says helping someone is always more important than anything else. The audience clapped. Emma grinned wide, her eyes sparkling. Michael felt his throat tighten. He turned away from the window, tears slipping down his cheeks. He whispered softly, "You're my hero too, Peanut." Time moved on. The world kept spinning, but the lessons that day left behind never faded. Years later, Emma would grow up to become a nurse, saving lives, just like her father once did. And every time someone asked her why she chose that path, she'd tell them, "Because one day my dad chose kindness over everything else." And it changed our lives. Sometimes the universe tests you, not to break you, but to reveal who you really are. Michael thought missing his interview was a failure, but in truth, it was destiny guiding him toward something greater. He didn't just save a stranger that day, he saved his own future, and maybe that's what miracles really look like. Not flashes of light or divine voices, but small moments where love, courage, and compassion lead us down a path we never expect.